Sometimes some of the most important battles of history are not fought on the battlefield with sword and blood, but rather between family, with nothing but words. In both cases, the stakes are still high, with the outcome still changing the history of Westeros forever. The perfect example of this came during the reign of King Jaehaerys Targaryen, the Conciliator. The question of who the young king would marry was a hard one, with countless young ladies proposed from up and down Westeros and even into the free cities of Essos. But it became clear that the people of Westeros, and the faith most of all, would not accept a foreign queen. The Queen Regent Alysanne and her councillors discussed the question of the king's marriage time and time again over about a month without reaching a consensus. Jaehaerys himself was not privy to these debates. Dowager Queen Alysanne in particular had no doubt whatsoever about who her son would choose to marry were the choice left to him, and that choice under no circumstances could be allowed to happen. His sister, Princess Alysanne. The Targaryens had been marrying sister to brother for centuries. Alysanne was only 2 years younger than Jaehaerys, and reportedly the two had always been close even as young children. Their father, King Aenys, would certainly have wished for them to marry, but the horrors their mother had endured under Maegor the Cruel swayed her from this course of action. She mostly feared another faith uprising, like the one that had occurred at the announcement of the marriage of Aegon the Uncrowned and Princess Rhaena. It was decided that Alysanne would marry Rogar Baratheon, the Hand and Lord Regent's younger brother. Like many such arrangements throughout the ages, their plan was soon to be undone, for they had grievously underestimated the will and determination of Alysanne Targaryen and her young king Jaehaerys. No announcement had been made of Alysanne's betrothal, so it was not known how word reached her, although another girl might have wept or run pleading to her mother. But Princess Alysanne instead went directly to Jaehaerys. The young king was as displeased as his sister at the news, coming to the conclusion they must also be planning a wedding for him without his knowledge. Like his sister, Jaehaerys did not waste time with reproaches, recriminations, or appeals. Instead, he acted. Summoning his Kingsguard, he instructed them to sail at once to Dragonstone and not to tell a soul of their departure. That night, under the cover of darkness, King Jaehaerys and Princess Alysanne mounted their dragons, Vermithor and Silverwing, and departed the Red Keep for Dragonstone. Reportedly, the first words the young king spoke upon landing were of his need of a septon. The Kingsguard arrived from King's Landing by galley a few days later. That following morning, as the sun rose, Jaehaerys Targaryen married his sister, Alysanne, in the yard at Dragonstone, before the eyes of gods and men, and dragons. Septon Oswyck performed the marriage rites. The 7 knights of the Kingsguard stood witness to the union. The castle's garrisons and servants looked on as well, together with a good part of the small folk from the fishing village that huddled below Dragonstone's mighty curtain walls. A modest feast followed the ceremony, and many toasts were drunk to the health of the boy king and his new queen. Afterward, Jaehaerys and Alysanne retired to their bedchamber, but in view of the bride's youth, there was no bedding ceremony, and the marriage was not consummated. That omission would prove to be of great importance when Lord Rogar and Queen Alysanne arrived belatedly from King's Landing in a war galley, accompanied by more than a dozen knights, 40 men-at-arms, Septon Matthias, and the Grand Maester Benefer. Jaehaerys and Alysanne met them inside the castle gates, holding hands. It is said that Queen Alysanne wept when she saw them. She called them foolish children, not knowing what they had just done. Septon Matthias took his turn too, his voice thunderous as he berated the king and the queen, and prophesied that the abomination would plunge Westeros into war, and every pious son shall denounce you as the sinners that you are. It is said the Septon's face grew red and swollen with anger as he spoke. Jaehaerys is rightly honoured in the histories of the realm for his calm demeanour and temperament, but he was still the blood of the dragon, with fire running through his veins. When Septon Matthias finally stopped, he told him, "I will accept chastisement from my mother, but not from you. Hold your tongue, fat man. If another word passes your lips, I will have them sewn shut." The Septon did not utter another word. However, Lord Rogar Baratheon was not deterred. Once Rogar confirmed the marriage had not been consummated, he told Jaehaerys and Alysanne that they were not truly married yet. He then turned to his knights who accompanied him from the capital and ordered them to separate the children and to escort Alysanne to the Sea Dragon Tower and the king back to the Red Keep. As Rogar's men moved forward, the 7 knights of Jaehaerys' Kingsguard stepped up and drew their blades. "Come no closer," warned Sir Giles Morrigan. "Any man who lays a hand upon our king and queen shall die here today." Rogar insisted he was the king's hand, but the Kingsguard knight, old Sour Sam, answered that they were the Kingsguard and not the hands. Rogar made it clear to the Kingsguard that there were only 7 against more than 50, but still, the Kingsguard stood firm. Another Kingsguard knight, Pate the Woodcock, picked up his spear and replied, "They might kill us, but you will be the first to die, my lord," pointing to the spear in his hand. A tense standoff ensued, no one wanting to make the first move. Had Queen Alyssa not chosen that moment to speak, the battle would have surely have been a bloody one for the ages. But the queen stepped forward and said that she had seen enough death and commanded all to lower their weapons. "What's done is done, and let the gods have mercy on the realm." She told her children they will go in peace, and that no man should speak of what had happened here at the gates of Dragonstone. The king agreed with his mother, but warned her and Rogar as he pulled his sister close to him, placing his arm around her. They should not think about trying to undo this marriage, that they were one, and that gods and men would never part them. Then Alysanne spoke up, telling her mother they could send her to the ends of the earth, all the way to the Grey Waste, but Silverwind would always bring her back to Jaehaerys. She raised herself onto her toes and kissed the king as all looked on. While the battle that could have ensued would have been a bloody one for the ages, what makes the marriage of Jaehaerys and Alysanne such a keen point in history is that the war of words and political manoeuvring at the Wars of Dragonstone. Even now, at this young age, King Jaehaerys showed a glimpse of the man and great king he would become, how the power of his actions and words, even as a child, were able to change the course of history of Westeros forever.